Welcome to the Lineman Lounge, hosted by Mike and Evo, calling their shots and being outlandish.
Breaking news from the Lineman Lounge. My fantasy football team just took a huge fucking hit. And that also makes it even more likely that the Raiders are going to beat the Ravens on Monday night. Le'Veon Bell is about to be your starter. Latavius Murray is going to go there as well. Jesus, fuck my ass.
Get ready for the thickest podcast in the game. Coming to you from Hangar 6, where sleeves are optional. Strap in. The show starts right now.
¿Cómo están, bitches? This is the Lineman Lounge. I am Mike. The man to my right is Evo, and we are here on a chilly Sunday out here in Cleveland, but I know it is beautiful out there in Arizona, and I am fucking pumped to be here today. Going to be kind of a quicker show. We don't have any football games this week. Not any real football games, I should say, this week. But I know that Evo's had a great weekend. You went up to Phoenix. You got to check out Super Bowl experience. So that's kind of where I want to start. I want to get into your experience at the Super Bowl experience because I don't really have any youth sports to talk about. We don't have any football games to pick. So let's just start diving into some fucking storylines. And the storyline that I want to hear the most is how your weekend is going and how badass was that Super Bowl experience?
Yeah, it's going pretty good so far. Obviously, it's Sundays. You know, we're bringing you the show normally when either we'd be talking about the games in the morning, but we have our bye week in between the conference championships and the Super Bowl, which the matchup is now all set. But the Super Bowl experience is up here in Phoenix, Arizona, or down here, I guess, depending on where you're viewing from.
Where you're from, yep.
Yeah, so they've got a whole bunch of stuff set up in Phoenix for the Super Bowl already, and they basically make it like a 2-week event. For a second, I was thinking, oh, maybe the Pro Bowl is going to be up there, and that'd be really cool to go see because tickets are relatively cheap. And by Pro Bowl, of course, I mean the Pro Bowl games. You know, get to go see long drive competitions and stuff like that. But no, they've got 2 different event venues set up in Phoenix. They've got one where they have live music going on during the evenings. Those are free shows apparently. With some pretty big name artists that you can just kind of go in and watch. And then they have the Super Bowl experience, which is in the convention center in Phoenix, which for anyone local to the Arizona area that could try to possibly make it out there, I would absolutely 100% do it, especially if you have kids. Make it a full day event for the whole family. Tickets are relatively cheap. They're $20 a pop. Parking is pretty expensive.
Yeah, parking is always typically pretty goddamn expensive.
Yep. But you're going to want to budget aside a little bit of money for the food because you're getting the true Super Bowl stadium experience with the food prices, $18 for some nachos. But they do have liquor. They've got beer. They've got all your accoutrements inside. And then the convention center is basically filled out with what I would almost consider to be like 3 main event spaces. You have the NFL shop, which you actually don't need to have tickets in order to access because why would they want to restrict you from spending your money?
Correct. You're going in there to spend money.
Yeah, but it's, basically 1/3 of the convention center is completely loaded out with NFL shop material. Lots of Super Bowl swag, like I'm wearing today. Really cool stuff in there. They even have a Fenty shop for the ladies who are Riri fans and want to get their makeup done while they're there and put on some super expensive halter top jerseys.
Hell yeah.
Couldn't talk the woman into one of those, but not that I necessarily would have wanted to spend the money on it because I'm sure that they're stupid expensive.
Yeah.
And then you have the entire upper level is devoted basically towards different sort of drills and things that you can do. So like half of the side on the top level is NFL Play 60. They've got a ton of stuff for kids, whether it's cornhole, like the big Jenga block things that they can do, just things like that kind of take up time. They've got a full-size football field in place up there where they're running drills and whatnot for the kids to go through and different events for them. And then they have a lot of other stuff for adults. They've got a couple pickleball fields set up. You've got different field goal kick things that you can do, 40-yard dash. They've got the bench press from the combine, which if you watch the video of me on the Lineman Lounge Facebook page, I just absolutely crushed. They would only let you do 10, and I had more in me, but as you can see, you'll have to go check that out. They've got a whole bevy of different drills up there with jugs machines and things like that. So if you've ever sat down and watched the NFL Combine, you'd be like, I can do that. Well, it's your opportunity to kind of do some of those drills and show off a little bit, see if you've got what it takes. I don't think there's any sort of NFL scouts out there, so your boy ain't getting drafted in the 7th round this year. Though I did get to do a mock draft, essentially.
Nice.
They have you fill out your own card and everything. They send it up to someone at the podium. You walk across the stage, get to hold your team's jersey while they're flashing the team stuff behind you. So that was pretty cool. I got to get all that recorded. And of course, as you might have seen, I was on the NFL Network set reporting live for the Lineman Lounge. Jesus, fuck my ass.
Yeah. That also went out on Twitter, by the way.
Perfect. So that was pretty cool. We're going worldwide with that Lineman Lounge swag. So and then you take yourself down from that top level down to the bottom level, and that's where a lot more of the historical stuff really is. They've got all the Super Bowl rings on display there. They have a big display from the NFL Hall of Fame there in Canton, which I'm sure that you've been to out there in Ohio. But it's a little slice of it. They've got some of the NFL busts out there, a whole bunch of historical jerseys, things like that. Like I said, every NFL ring, they've got the Lombardi Trophy and the AFC and FC Championship trophies. You can walk across the stage and actually get right up close and personal with the Lombardi Trophy. And just a whole bevy of really cool historical items down there. Things that kind of teach you about the league and see the history of the league. So it's definitely something that, Hannah and I firing through, we were able to get done everything in 3 hours without doing all the drills and stuff that were there. But if we had, taken the time to run through every drill and things like that, we probably could have tacked on another 2 or 3 hours onto the things. And the lines weren't egregious by any means. So it wasn't like you're at Disney waiting in line for an hour to.
Yeah, I was wondering if it was going to be just completely fucking overcrowded because I know where the convention center is located, and it's not hard to get to, and there's a lot of damn people in Phoenix. So
yeah, it definitely was very busy in there, but I think the longest that we waited in line probably was for us to go across to get drafted. And that was maybe 20-30 minutes at most. That we were waiting for that. Yeah. The lines, for field goal kicking and stuff like that were a little bit longer, but not by much. So,
everybody wants to be a fucking kicker, bro.
Yeah, it's that one thing that seems kind of accessible. And Hannah actually got drafted by the Broncos yesterday as a kicker.
Oh, very nice.
Yeah. So it was a really cool experience. Again, if you're in the area local, I mean, obviously it's 2.5 or so hour drive for me to get up there. Well worth the experience. Well worth the trip to Phoenix to go check it out and actually be kind of a part of the Super Bowl, because not every year that the Super Bowl is really close to where you're going to be. So if you have an opportunity, definitely go and do it. It's worth it.
Yeah. Awesome, man. Yeah. For anybody going, if you are one of those people that is going to make their way out to the Super Bowl, stop in into the fucking Super Bowl experience. It looks like a badass time. I'm super jealous. I wish I had got to go. When I saw you on the NFL live set, I was like, motherfucker, that looks awesome.
Yeah, I immediately was like, oh, I need some video of me shouting out the Lineman Lounge, so that way we can be on the set doing that. Now they do have it. Also, you have to have some NFL app set up on your phone that basically every time that you enter one of the little lanes to do something, they scan your phone, and then while you're there, you can have them take pictures on your phone. Other people can take pictures of you on your phone, video, whatever. But they also have it queued up where they've got their own videographer and picture taking people. There's shitloads of photo booths through the entire thing. And it's supposed to be, you scan your stuff, they start recording, and they email everything straight to you. Well, every email that we got was absolute garbage yesterday. So they still haven't worked that out, but it's only their first day of actually being open, I think.
Okay.
I think they opened Saturday, yesterday for the first time, and they run through this weekend, and then starting Thursday next week, they're actually going to be open even more. But it's supposed to work where any of the video and picture stuff that you're given is sent back to you. We just got pictures of some other person's little QR code or something like that on a broken screen by accident. But on that NFL set, I actually did do the whole spiel of, welcome to Lineman Lounge, blah, 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 and fuck my ass. And you can see them on one of our recordings on a phone in the background on their tablet as they're recording it and going. And that's probably why I didn't get it, was because they're like, and this just got R-rated.
Hey, we're not using this.
Yeah. But that's what it is. Definitely a cool experience.
Awesome, man. That sounds awesome. So they had the draft here. Shout out, Cliff. Thanks for joining us, brother. The Super Bowl thing has got to be fucking awesome. I'm super jealous. I'm very happy for you that you got to go and experience that. Now I know when there's a Super Bowl close to me, I got to go find out where they're doing the Super Bowl experience. Especially if we can take the kids and let them go. And like Graydon would love to go do drills and shit. So.
Oh yeah. Yeah, very cool.
All right. Other than your Super Bowl experience, anything else going on this weekend? I know I got some shit. Once we're done here, I'm headed into Cleveland. I'm doing a beta test on a VR system with the Cleveland Charge. Apparently, I'm supposed to be able to play against NBA and collegiate basketball players, and they have some sort of algorithm that is going to level the playing field. So I am gonna have some similar skills, I guess. They better make me at least a foot taller in this VR machine if this is gonna work. But
see, when you said that you're gonna be doing some sort of VR experience, I was really hoping that you were gonna get added into it somehow, and you were gonna have to wear one of those, like skin suits with the balls all over you for motion capture, and we're gonna.
So that would be dope, but
some thickness playing around, and that would have been great. I would have wanted the raw footage of that.
Yeah, of that, yeah. No, so it's just going to be like a VR headset, and they're doing some testing. Maybe in the near future, we could see VR at a lot of basketball stadiums around the country. So I'm excited for that. But
also heard that you got a little autograph request too recently.
Yeah. So what day was that? Was that Thursday? Fuck, I don't remember what day. Thursday. Yeah, so I did a basketball game call, Cleveland State. It was the Health in Hoops game. So there was, thousands of kids in the stands. It was very, very loud. It was a lot of fun. Cleveland State got a win. They got another win yesterday. Shout out those ladies. And there was a bunch of kids, and they were, getting autographs from the players. They're awesome thing to do. So I'm kind of getting my stuff wrapped up, walking away from the desk where we sit, and I've got the suit on. I've got the ESPN Plus little lanyard thing saying who I am, and this kid asked if I will sign an autograph, and I was fucking blown away. I was like, you don't want me to sign an autograph, right? Like, you're looking for a player. And he's like, no, like, you too. I was like, I'm not on this piece of paper, right? Like, I'll sign this thing, but I don't know that it's going to increase the value if anything special happens. But I did. And then right after I did that, a kid came up and asked if I would sign his Jordan. So I was like, this is fucking wild. I signed the Jordan, but I made sure that I put ESPN on there so that way he knew what the hell the purpose of the signature was.
They thought Liam Hemsworth is reporting here, doing the sideline reporting for the Cleveland State game, so we got to go get an autograph real quick.
Right. Yeah. It was a wild experience. It was cool. I don't think I ever expected that. But yeah, it was fun. It was a great game. And I signed autographs. I can't believe I signed a kid's fucking Jordan. I hope his parents are not pissed. I asked him very specifically. I was like, are your parents going to kill you when you come home if I sign these?
If anything, the dad's probably a little confused and just being like, I can't make this out, but all right.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, absolutely not. I did not give a payroll signature.
Sure. It's got to be that you're signing something signature.
Yeah.
Real whippy. This could be a prescription medication, or it could just be, some chicken scratch. But
yeah. That is correct. Yeah, but that was cool. Actually, so since we're talking about it, Cleveland State women yesterday played another game. They played Youngstown State. Got a win. They, I believe, now are in sole possession of first place in the Horizon League. Shout out those ladies. Also, big shout out to point guard on the team. Her name is Deja. She is awesome, and her favorite Elizabeth is a huge fan of her. She like watched her up and down the court. Deja came over and gave Elizabeth a hug after the game. It was really, really cool. If you guys are on Twitter, you can go check out the interaction. Amber got the picture and got it posted. So Deja, I appreciate you doing that. But with that said, are we ready to start diving into some other storylines and all the shit that has happened this week?
Yeah, absolutely. Let's get into it.
All right. So NBA wise, we'll stick with the basketball theme. Fucking Kyrie wants out, which is wild considering what position that this team has kind of positioned themselves in the standings. They're fourth out in the East. They're above the Cavs. Like they're a good squad, but for some reason now Kyrie wants out again. I don't know if there's internal issues. It's got to be something in the locker room or with the front office because they're good. Kyrie's been playing since, COVID's not really a thing too much in the NBA anymore either. So,
Imagine that.
Yeah, weird. I don't understand the request. And who the fuck wants to go and get Kyrie at this point, considering all the issues and all the drama that is surrounding him?
I mean, that's the couple things I've heard is, Clippers are in on some trade talks. I mean, obviously there's a LeBron James and Lakers connection that people are trying to make since the Lakers are looking a little bit better.
The greatest thing in the world would be a fucking Russell Wilson for Kyrie Irving swap. Send Russell Wilson back out there with KD and watch them just beat the shit out of each other.
Well, if you want to see grown men act like children, you're going to see quite a little hissy fit, I'm pretty sure. So I'm all for it at this point in the NBA. I mean, it's fun to watch that.
It is, but I mean, you're talking the Clippers. The Clippers are in a weird spot. They're good, but they're not that good. Their stars are always hurt. They don't play too often. So adding a Kyrie for them makes sense. But I don't know if Kyrie fits in with the PG 13 and which is Kawhi Leonard. It's another. There's just going to be too many different types of personalities there that I don't know if that works. Much like we saw happen with the Lakers, where they don't mesh together as a team, and they have very weird skill sets. So the Kyrie thing was very, very weird. I didn't understand why he wants out. They're playing good. He's on a squad where he gets to be a leader, especially with KD kind of sitting out. So, yeah, I don't get it. And I wouldn't want Kyrie back on my team. I think Kyrie's a very good basketball player. Good dude, but I think that he brings too much extra drama with him.
Yeah, too much flat earth theory and all these other weird issues. It is interesting to see that he wants to leave right now. But I mean, I guess if we want to take a bird's eye view of the whole situation, sometimes you just don't jive with your team and you want to go somewhere else. Maybe he just really doesn't like New York. Who knows what the reasons are, really?
I wonder if, now we're about to get into a little bit of controversy, if there's anything to do with the punishment that the Nets tried to hand out, or did kind of hand out, in response to Kyrie's comments and posts about the things that were said by Kanye West. Maybe he doesn't feel like that organization has his back. I don't know how you could in that situation, but there has been some issues in that relationship between Kyrie and the front office that have been very public, this year, and then going back to last year dealing with COVID shit. So that could be it. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, the NBA is definitely weird about that stuff. Their social spotlight and public spotlight on certain issues. Now they will just kind of completely pull the rug out from under you on certain things. Not saying that his comments and everything about Ye were correct, but I mean, we've seen this with, free Tibet stuff in China and how the league has just been like, oh, this is a big money source. You shut the fuck up, you listen and do what you're told type thing, and you have no recourse. It's a pretty difficult thing to, on a moral level, get over.
Right.
If I was put in that situation, I can't imagine that I would just like want to or be willing to bend the knee to the league in that sort of a situation. This definitely does seem, though, more pointedly directed at the team, and the whole situation of the team not having your back. I get that. It's just weird for it to come out right now, unless he's already been having some sort of talks with the team, maybe about contract extensions, things like that, and he's not feeling the love. So he's just like, let's accelerate this process and get me moved on.
Yeah, get me the fuck out of here as quick as possible. That could be it. All right. So that's all I got on Kyrie, man. NBA wise, I don't have too much else. The Cavs are up and down. They're impossible to bet right now. I don't know if you guys are on the Facebook page, you can see that producer Amber is just about done with the goddamn Cavaliers. I think a lot of people are done betting on the Cavaliers, especially if you're a Cavs fan. Games that they shouldn't win, they're winning. Games that they should win, they're fucking getting blown out in. They're just so up and down. Trade deadline is coming up in the NBA, though, so we should start seeing some movement. We'll see if that Lakers squad gets any better. I don't know. If they don't find a way to get better, LeBron's going to find a way to get the fuck out of there. But LeBron is also getting ready to pass Kareem Abdul-Jabbar for the most points ever recorded in the NBA. How big of an accomplishment is this? And is there any tarnishment on the fact that LeBron is just going to play so fucking long that's why he's getting this record? We have things that the way we feel about Emmitt Smith's record, I think people are going to kind of feel about this LeBron James points record, because Emmitt was a good back. Is he the greatest back of all time? No, not even close, but he has the most yards. What is your take on LeBron, climbing up to number one? Because it's going to happen here in the next week.
Yeah. I mean, congratulations to the guy. Nothing really should be taken away from him, if you're comparing it to old records and stuff like that and the length of time that he's played. Either you have the record or you don't, and he's going to have the record, and props to him for that. I don't like trying to take away, accolades from a guy or finding excuses really to take away those accolades. If you want to put it in perspective, if we're talking about a conversation of greatest of all time type thing, then that's where you start making those comparisons. But at the end of the day, for me, he is playing longer. We're in a current day and age where player health is boosted by, great medical and supplementation and stuff like that. That's allowing him to play a lot longer than the older generation. And that's just how it's going to continue to be going forward. We're going to have rehabilitation for injuries and things like that get guys back on the court or the playing surfaces way quicker. It is what it is. So I don't, much like Emmitt Smith, yes, he did play forever and he has the most yards, but I mean, if it was that easy, you'd be seeing running backs doing it left and right. I know Adrian Peterson said that he wanted to beat his record, and Adrian's not in the league right now. Not that he's retired, but he can't play for a team because he's just not as good as he was anymore. It's not worth the money that he's going to demand, and he's not going to be able to be out there, and he's not going to beat that record. Whereas Emmitt Smith was able to do it despite, the fact that it took him, forever to do, because he just kept on playing. He at least was playing to a level that he could still be on a roster. Right. And that still says something about the player, the type of guy that they are. So I don't want to take anything away from him. As much as I'm not like a LeBron fan, I definitely respect what he's done. And kudos to him.
All right. Well, I think, I don't know. We got some new people who've come to the show recently since, we got out to Ohio. So I am a believer that LeBron is the greatest basketball player of all time. He's not the GOAT because he hasn't won as much as he probably should. He has got contemporaries that have won more than he has. So you can't be the GOAT. That's Jordan. But he is a better basketball player than Michael Jordan. And he is about to break this record that I don't know that people thought was ever going to be ever broken, because of just the sheer number that was there. But his ability to keep his body healthy. I mean, he spends $1 million to keep his body in shape in the offseason, is awesome. It's truly impressive, and it's one more notch in his cap. He needs to continue to win more titles, and he's not going to do that with the Lakers anytime soon, it looks like, if he's going to go down as the GOAT. But I think he's the best basketball player. The fact that he's going to be the highest scorer, he's going to, top 10 in assists, top 10 in fucking rebounds, probably. Those are all crazy impressive numbers, and it just reaffirms my opinion that he is the best basketball player of all time.
All right. And we could do show after show on who the best is and all sorts of stuff and how to correctly word things in order to make everyone happy. But
Tom Brady's the GOAT of football, right? He is the greatest of all time. He's won the most Super Bowls. But if I'm taking a team starting from scratch and I'm going to build around it, Tom's not the quarterback I'm taking to start my franchise.
For sure. Not now, not in the past. In the past, maybe if we're talking Randy Moss there or something like that, but still, you have a lot better out there.
Yeah, but there's better talent, but the ability to win, especially when we're talking about the NFL, is much more of a team sport than most of the other sports that you're going to run into in the United States, anyways.
Well, I might be running into some Wi-Fi issues here.
Yeah, I saw you kind of glitching out there.
Yeah.
But, all right, so I got nothing else on the NBA. Do you have any other storylines that you want to discuss before we start diving into all the shit that's been happening in the NFL?
No, I think I'm good to go.
All right. So we're gonna pop over to the NFL, and I know that you had something that you wanted to discuss. So I'm gonna let you take the floor here, big guy.
Yeah, it's a little bit different for the show. Normally, we just kind of have a little back and forth, witty repartee, but it's getting towards the end of the year here, and so I went along going through a little monologue of this year of football. And don't worry, I'm sure that we will talk about the new coach out there.
That's absolutely happening.
Yeah. So we're currently a week away from the culmination of yet another tumultuous and unpredictable NFL season. Some things in the world today are normal. We have a strong and mentally stable president in office. UFO sightings are at an all-time low. We don't have to wake up to headlines of Chinese spy balloons floating through our skies. Russia isn't trying to antagonize everyone into starting, World War III, and computers aren't becoming sentient and writing papers for students in college, and internet pornography is stuck to good old-fashioned missionary position. None of the other funny stuff that's out there. And yes, this is all a sarcastic lie, but we do have some semblance of normalcy, at least in the NFL. NFL is still run by a bunch of crotchety old billionaires who are more concerned with their money than they are with the other relevant matters in the world, like racism, sexism, player safety, any other social cause that they could do good for with the extent of their platform. Roger Goodell remains the commissioner, and he's a crony backbone for the said owners. And of course, officiating is still such a joke that the question of, is the league rigged, sounds more credible every single day. Beyond that, the league has decided to throw in a whole bevy of plot twists this year that few probably could have predicted. Long gone are the days of Tom Brady being 50% of the quarterback lineup in your Super Bowl, and ushered in are the days of Tom Brady retiring and unretiring like an indecisive girlfriend who doesn't know where she wants to eat. The Giants are actually good this year, and the Rams are bad. That is, at least until Baker Mayfield showed up. The Carolina Panthers traded away Christian McCaffrey, and somehow they got better. The Bills beat the Browns this year, which isn't much of a headline, except for the fact that they beat them in Detroit. This was just a crazy year in the league. It's not the Bears made the playoffs type of crazy, but it's just a different shade of what the fuck. Hearing that the Chargers blew a 27-0 lead in the playoffs isn't that surprising until you find out that it was to the Jaguars, who are actually a good team this year. Last year, Derek Carr was in MVP talks, and this year he ends up benched for Jared Stidham, and it looks like he's out the door. Geno Smith is a better quarterback than Russell Wilson. The Denver Broncos hired a head coach who didn't understand that there's actually a play clock in the NFL, let alone how to coach an NFL team, and the Broncos hired him all in the hopes that it could hopefully help them in acquiring Aaron Rodgers. Hopefully no one decides to pull that stunt again. Packers got eliminated from the playoff contention on the last play of the NFL season by the Lions on a hook and ladder play. The Patriots' new offensive coordinator was their old defensive coordinator. And surprise, surprise, he's absolutely fucking terrible. The Cowboys were surprisingly good this year, except that their kicker completely forgot how to make extra points when it mattered. And somebody, what, am I breaking up?
You were, so did I, so we're good. It's all right, keep going.
So the Cowboys were surprisingly good this year, except for their kicker absolutely forgot how to make field goals, extra points, that is, when it really mattered. And somebody, and I'm looking at you, Mike McCarthy, you fat dummy who constantly looks like an autistic kid watching fireworks, decides that they should play Zeke Elliott at center to try to save their season. The Colts decided to move on from Frank Reich and replace him with none other than Jeff Saturday because he just happened to be around that weekend, leading me to believe that Jim Irsay is back on the sauce. And lastly, Mr. Irrelevant became Mr. Supremely Relevant and literally threw his arm off trying to will his team into the Super Bowl. So if your head is spinning, don't worry, my head is spinning too. I can only thank God that a week from today, this whole thing is going to be over. We can be done with football. We can get on with our lives and on to more important things, like starting the NFL season up all over again. That's a little recap of your NFL year, 1 week out before we get into the Super Bowl. And now I'm ready to talk about football.
That was
and
very well done.
Hopefully the internet connection doesn't shit out too much anymore.
Yeah, that was very, very well done. It was a fucking wild year. And we're going to talk about some of those things that you brought up because they're massive, massive storylines right now. And the first one that I think that we should address is the fact that now, listen, if you have a podcast or if you talk about sports at all, you've known for the longest of times, the NFL's rigged. And Arian Foster has come out and said it. Cast from Barstool. I mean, the cat's out of the bag, man. We couldn't pick every game right because we had to make it believable. So now what do we do now that everybody knows the secret that the NFL is rigged?
The scriptwriters had to get on one this year. Like, let's flip the whole fucking script.
Yeah, it's fucking crazy. Like, I wasn't expecting this when I saw the rough draft of the script. It was wild. Mm-hmm. But okay, I can't do it anymore because this joke has gone entirely too far. There were people that were picking up the story and believing it is true, and I could not understand for the life of me why people actually. Well, I know why they wanted to believe it because people love conspiracy theories. Listen, I love a good conspiracy theory as much as the next, and every once in a while they're fucking true. MK Ultra, fucking, you can name a billion things that people said that you say them out loud, people think you're crazy, and then they end up being fucking true. But this is not true. It's not scripted. There's no way to do that. It's fucking impossible. But I love the fact that people ran with this, and I loved the memes and the replies to this. Are you as dumbfounded as I am the fact that people actually kind of went with this? Or do you think that they were in on the joke? Because to me, it's so funny that this story has blown up the way it has.
Well, that's the problem is that there's some things that are somewhat believable. I mean, people always want to look for an excuse as to why their team isn't good, why certain things are happening. And like you said, yeah, conspiracy theories are a lot of fun to, kind of tug at that string. A lot of times conspiracy theories come from, little bits and pieces of truth, and then they're just filled with a whole bunch of bullshit otherwise in order to make it fun. But I think that most people know that it's not really true. But still, even there's a part of me that feels like maybe the NFL is rigged to an extent, because when you see some of the things that are happening with officiating, it really makes you question, is someone pulling the strings and saying, hey, refs, we need to lean this way. This is what's going to give us better ratings. This is what's going to, really sell out this game for the next week. And I mean, that the Giants Washington game this year in the middle of the season, the way that ended, it did seem like at least one of those officials was on the take. I know that, this conference championship weekend, there was a lot of complaints from people, and I kind of feel bad for some of them because, and I'm looking at you, Joe Rockstar, I don't think that they were officiated as bad as you're saying. Was there bad stuff? Yes. But at the end of the day, your team lost because your quarterback went down. You're on your fourth stringer who went down. And I hate to say this because I did want to see the 49ers make it to the Super Bowl. But with Brock Purdy going down with that UCL, it's good that the 49ers got eliminated because otherwise we would have had a Super Bowl with who at quarterback, because he's out for 6 months at least while he possibly gets that Tommy John surgery. So I never wished the injury on anyone. Obviously, I didn't want to see him get injured. But once he did get injured, I don't want my Super Bowl to be ruined by not having any sort of quarterback play and seeing someone probably get their shit handed to him. So you can't script things like that. You can't script the injuries. The NFL potentially, I suppose, could be leaning into telling the refs to err a little bit on this side, one way or the other. And it seems more egregious in certain games, but I'm not willing to say that the NFL is rigged like that. I think that maybe they do kind of lean sometimes, at least that's the way it feels, but I'm not even willing to jump on that bandwagon completely. I think that some refs just really fucking suck. And as usual, hire the fucking refs full time.
Yeah. So that's where I was going to take us to next. Yeah. So it's impossible to script. Is it possible that maybe they have the refs lean one way? Maybe the refs are doing some gambling and they have money on these games, but the officiating is terrible. We have said this countless times. These guys have got to be full-time employees. And I got to tell you, I think that the whole the storyline that the NFL is scripted, and Arian Foster coming out and saying this and people backing it up, I think a lot of it has maybe a little bit to do with the fact that the refs are so fucking egregious, and it looks like games are slanted in a certain direction because there is absolutely no accountability for these fucking referees. They're not full-time employees. It blows my mind. It's the only league that does this. It's got to change. And I think now with all of this shit that's coming out, the NFL is going to be forced into doing something. I don't know if the referees are going to get on board. But
I don't know, man. That's it. The people who are scripties or whatever that'll say it's all scripted, we're going to see something else come out, like another Damar Hamlin story or something like that. They're going to say, oh, this is scripted to get your eyes off of the ref situation. But what you're saying is absolutely correct. 100% hire the refs on full time. If you look at any other job out there next to president, your job performance directly affects your job. So if you suck at your job, you might get demoted, you might get fired. If you seem almost negligent, you might get fined or something like that, which is all that we're asking for from these officials, is that they be held accountable when they fuck up. If a player goes out there and questions the officiating, they're hit with a 5-figure fine. Yep. If a ref goes out there and absolutely blows a fucking game, pat on the butt, move on, don't get in front of the camera, don't say anything. Now, we know that the NFL does do internal reviews of their officials after every single game, and they're given a report card on how they did, but that's not public. That isn't made public to anybody where we can see like, oh, this officiating crew knows that they, were only correct on 83% of their calls and they missed this many calls and things like that. That's all done behind the scenes, and that's actually how they select the different playoff crews, and the crews for the Super Bowl is based on those report cards. So theoretically, you should be getting the best crew out there, but let's do better than that. That the officials aren't losing any money. They aren't having any money taken away from them when they completely fuck up. They're just losing earning potential because they get paid a little bit extra to do playoff games and get bonuses for doing Super Bowls and stuff like that. So that's their North Star, which as a part-time employee is a pretty fucking nice North Star, because I guarantee these guys are making six figures for working a little bit on the weekends. Couple, 18 weeks out of the year or what have you. All these guys have full-time jobs otherwise, except for the ones that might already be retired and this is just their side gig. I sure fucking wish that could be my side gig, where I have to go and watch a fucking professional football game and interact with all the players. I wouldn't want all the fucking hate that's going to come my way. That would definitely stop me from doing it probably, but still, like, it's a pretty cush gig. All you got to do is make the right calls. And if you know that your job is actually on the line and my paycheck is on the line, if I make a call right or wrong, I'm going to be honing my craft constantly when I'm outside of work, making sure that I'm doing the right thing. Not to mention that the NFL has, I don't know, a little bit of money to throw around where they can have every fucking imaginable camera angle that you want. Even if it's not the broadcast angles, they can have cameras pointed at every fucking which way direction on the field, because they got them throughout the concourses and throughout the rest of the stadium to make sure that drunk Jimmy isn't like pissing in a corner because he's fucking loaded up on $20 beers. So let's put a little bit of that money into the field. We already got GPSs in the football. It's just used for next gen stats. Maybe allow that to be used by officiating crews. I don't know. Maybe have cameras in every pylon and different angles of every end zone line and every sideline and things like that. So that way we can just make the calls right. I understand, like with baseball, people get upset about the robot ump and stuff like that. And to an extent, I can understand that because that's part of the game. But NFL officiating is just supposed to be correct officiating. It's not like judgment calls. Right. It is supposed to be perfect. Oopsies. It is supposed to be, black and white on these things. That's how they want the rule book to be. So let's have black and white rules and let's call it black and white. And we have the ability to do that. And we're failing to do that. And the only reason that I can think that that's the case is because it's going to take a little bit of money out of someone's pocketbook.
Yeah. And that's exactly what it will come down to, is the money it's going to cost to make them full-time employees, which is a shame.
Mm-hmm.
This problem is not going away. The officiating has not gotten better. It's gotten worse.
And I honestly don't expect to see a change on this, a meaningful change by next year. I don't.
Yeah.
The Players Association could try to push for it, but they're just going to get rolled over like they always do.
Yeah.
They're worried about more trivial stuff. The league owners aren't going to do it. It would absolutely take, in the Super Bowl, the most televised game of the year, to have just like the most egregious call where you have like politicians saying we need congressional hearings about this shit, and having Roger Goodell go out there to explain what the fuck is happening, because now that gambling is at an all-time high in the NFL, people's money's on the line with it even more so than normal, and that's what's going to drive it. That's the sort of thing that we're going to need to have happen, and I really don't want that to happen because I don't want the game to be ruined. But until something like that happens, I just don't see there being enough driving force for the NFL to make a change, a meaningful change.
All right. So with that, let's start diving into some of the other storylines. We had to talk about the Arian Foster thing. It was wild. You brought up another thing in there. I'm going to say something real quick. Damar Hamlin is fine, guys. He's alive. He did a goddamn interview. Stop believing everything you fucking see on the internet.
Mm-hmm.
That conspiracy blew my mind that people were like, nope, he's dead. That's not him.
He's dead.
Now, what the fuck are you talking about? Like, that's not the level of conspiracy should match the level of like what is happening. That one was just too fucking far out there.
Yeah. Now the NFL is not done with Damar Hamlin, though. You can be sure of that. They're still using him as a PR stunt. Yes. ESPN is reporting that, inspired by the life-saving medical attention that Damar Hamlin received, the NFL, in association with the American Heart Association, is going to be providing free CPR education throughout Arizona in the weeks leading up to the Super Bowl. So if you want some free CPR training, you can get that courtesy of the NFL. And look at us. We're so good for doing that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, we got a comment here from Mama
Yeah.
Carlisle. Let's talk about Joe Mixon, multi-million-dollar player shoving a gun in a woman's face. Well, those charges have been dismissed.
Those charges have been dismissed. Therefore, they officially never happened, even though the incident maybe did happen. So Joe Mixon comes in.
Sounds like someone got some money thrown into their face.
It's exactly what happened. We were going to buy this fucking storyline away. That's exactly what happened. Joe Mixon has a history of having some issues prior to coming into the league. Pretty sure he fell down in the draft because he had an altercation with a woman where he struck her. And now there's this.
Now, this isn't done and over with yet. The lead investigator basically said that they need further investigation before they move forward. The victim understands it, and that this is a positive thing if they want to move forward with refiling the charges later. So it's not necessarily dead and over, but it might be.
But it might be.
Yeah.
Because somebody probably had some money, quite a bit of money thrown their way.
Yeah.
Did you hear that beep come through?
I did not.
All right, good. I just wanted to make sure I just got an email. Been fucking crushing email. Yeah. So Joe Mixon still has a potential to be suspended though, because personal conduct policy is however the fuck they want to make it. Now Roger Goodell is not the judge, jury, and executioner anymore because they have outside arbitration, which he will then completely ignore and then impose his own penalty whenever he wants. There are plenty of people who know that, including Deshaun Watson. So, we'll see. He will probably be suspended. But so that's what everybody thought about Alvin Kamara as well.
Mm-hmm. And nothing has still really happened from that.
Nothing has happened from that. All right. It's been an interesting week in the NFL in terms of storylines. Let's get into some normal shit. And we'll go to Hannah's team. We'll talk about the Broncos. Also our good friend Kayla Hubbard. They have a new head coach.
They do.
Maybe this is the head coach they wanted all along. Maybe not, based on what insider that you listen to, Schefter or Rappaport. They land on Sean Payton. They give up a 1, 2 next year, and they get back, was it a 3? And Sean Payton next year?
Yeah, something like that. Either way, it's I saw some breakdown of what it took to get Russell Wilson and Sean Payton out there, and it's like they gave up 3 1s and 3 2s or something like that, and a whole bunch of capital in order to get them. Are they any better? Probably not in the short term. The Russell Wilson stuff is definitely not looking favorable unless you only look at a microcosm of last year, which is their last game where he actually looked like a relatively competent quarterback. And maybe it really is big time system schematical stuff with Russ. I think that it's a little bit more than that because we both have commented on how his arm just did not look good last year.
Not a live arm anymore.
Yeah, so we're definitely talking about an aging player here, but that doesn't mean that Sean Payton can't install a new system, something that's going to work out a little bit better, and just make the offense flow. Because, I mean, by the end of his career, Peyton Manning wasn't what he was in the beginning, but they still were able to go out there and win a Super Bowl. A lot of it is catering towards what your quarterback does best. I mean, if you were to throw Russ Wilson in a San Francisco offense, I'm sure that he would actually look way really more competent than what he was this year. But I actually have a bit of a bone to pick though with Sean Payton. So obviously Sean Payton, part of Bounty Gate and everything that kind of foiled the Vikings 2009 season and their Super Bowl run, that still lingers with me a little bit, and is one of the reasons why I'm not a huge Saints fan. But he's already trying to fucking stick it to the Vikings again now that he's back in the league. We're in the search for a defensive coordinator with our top prospects being Brian Flores and Sean Desai. And a little birdie out there kept on saying, we think that they actually want to talk to Ajiro Avero as well, the defensive coordinator for the Broncos. But because it would be a lateral move and they still own his contract rights, no one could talk to him. Well, Sean Payton gets hired, and then there's a little bit of talk. Is Fangio actually going to now come out to Denver? Or is he going to stick with Miami and go there? Well, Fangio sticks with Miami. He's going to be their new DC. And Sean Payton has his interview with Ajiro and then starts bringing in other candidates for his defensive coordinator spot, some interviews. So it surely seems like Avero's going to be, out the door, and the Vikings request an interview, and he blocks it. And not only that, the two candidates that we want to bring in for a defensive coordinator, he's bringing them in for interviews as well. One of them has already dropped out. Sean Desai has said, I'm going to drop out of the running for Vikings defensive coordinator. So I'm sure that we'll end up with either Brian Flores or Ajiro Evero, and I'm actually very happy with either of them. They both bring a aggressive mindset. They both are, younger guys with fresh views on that defense, and that's what I'm looking for overall. But it's just like, hey, guy, come on, quit fucking blocking everything. You can't keep hoarding all these guys over here, because it's really, honestly, if I was Ajiro, I'd be pissed. I'd be like, hey, if you're not going to try to retain me, let me talk to other people and quit trying to screw with me. But it is what it is. It's just Sean Payton trying to work the system as much as he can, I suppose.
Well, and I think the interview and then not hiring and then not letting go is very interesting. But I feel like this was always going to kind of be a thing. Like once the Sean Payton domino fell, there was going to be a little bit of a logjam as he assembles his staff, because there's going to be a lot of guys that want to go and coach with Sean Payton. There's a reason that picks were given up to go get this guy. He's a Super Bowl winning coach, brilliant offensive mind, was able to do just really unbelievable things with his offense and Drew Brees. So you get tied to that guy, and then it will probably elevate your career. And he doesn't get his first pick in the DC with Fangio. So now everybody's waiting. Who does Sean Payton want to interview? It kind of stinks for some of the organizations that have not made that defensive coordinator hire, like your Vikings. But I feel like this was always probably going to happen because people want to be on that Sean Payton staff.
Yeah. And it really is the big chip to fall. I mean, we saw D'Amico Ryans get signed to the Texans right afterwards, which, props to him for going to that squad. If anyone's going to turn it around, hopefully it'll be him. And their defense at least should be good. And it is a little bit of an enviable spot to go to, because, hey, you get, very high draft pick. You're basically going to get to choose the quarterback that you want in the draft. So you can really start with a kind of fresh slate there, and the expectations aren't going to be huge. It's not like you're going in there as Lovie Smith, who's basically just a Manchurian candidate who's going to fucking take down, be taken out regardless. It's, you're actually going to have a shot. This is D'Amico. He played with the team,
Texans, yeah.
So they're going to give him quite a bit of leash. I'm sure that he could have 3+ terrible years there, and they're still going to give him that leash more than they would other coaches, because they know that this team is in a full kind of rebuild, perennial rebuild as normal. But who knows? The NFL scriptwriters might be writing right now that the Texans are a playoff team next year, so we might see some big upgrades.
Yeah, that would definitely throw us for a loop. I'm happy for D'Amico. I think he's definitely earned a spot to become a head coach. Really cool for him getting to go back to the Texans. I mean, he knows that organization. He knows the city. He played there. So awesome for them. They should be all in on him. I think it was a 4 or a 5 year contract. So they gave him quite a bit of time. He's coming in. He's going to get the pick of his quarterbacks. That defense should be very good. We could potentially see the Texans be, a fringe playoff team in the next 2 to 3 years, depending on who they draft at quarterback and how he develops.
Yeah.
They don't have the squad now, but they have all the ammo that they need, because they're finally starting to get out of the Bill O'Brien completely fucking the squad over, trading away assets and picks for
And-
things that didn't
And
help.
Deshaun Watson.
And getting rid of Deshaun Watson also very much helps.
Yeah. But that now leaves us with 2 head coaching vacancies still at the Arizona Cardinals with their new GM, Monty Ossenfort. And then you have the Colts, who are possibly moving on to their 3rd or 4th fucking round of interviews. And the scuttlebutt out there is that Jim Irsay is still pounding the table for Jeff Saturday to be their head coach, and that it's all the other parts of the ownership group are like, please God, please no, please Jim, fucking lay off the drink.
Put the bottle down and let's hire a coach.
Yeah. When there's some relatively decent candidates out there, the biggest one is Bengals defensive coordinator. They are looking at possibly bringing him in. Now, I think that he could be a good head coach, but the way that this league is going is an offensive head coach makes the most sense. The way that this team is set up right now is they have a very high draft pick to go out there and get their new franchise quarterback. Yeah. Wouldn't you want to have a offensive minded head coach, someone who's been called a bit of a quarterback whisperer, say maybe a Frank Reich?
Yeah, you would maybe think that, but Frank Reich was fired by that organization and already hired for a new position.
Yeah, with the Carolina Panthers, where he's probably going to be able to go out there and they're going to be able to get a new young quarterback. I mean, I think they're picking like 7th or something like that, but that's still well within the range to get one of those top 3 or 4 quarterbacks. So,
and they have juice, and they have the extra juice from trading Christian McCaffrey to be able to position to move up and pick who they want, depending on who they can find at a trade partner. So it's a very enviable position. I cannot understand for the life of me why Jeff Saturday is still in the running for this job. I have no call. I don't dislike Jeff Saturday, but we saw what that team looked like with Jeff Saturday. There was not a boon in performance, in game management, and any of the facets in which you need a head coach to help your team perform. So why is he in the consideration? Does he need to install his culture for an offseason to get this team going? I don't see that being the case, but maybe that's where Jim's mind is at. It doesn't make sense. They've had some good candidates in that could be really good options for them, but Irsay wants to hook his friend up, it sounds like.
Yeah. Look, honestly, I wouldn't, I as well don't have any issue with Jeff Saturday as a person. I don't even necessarily have an issue with him being a head coach, as long as Saturday were able to come in and bring in his own offensive coordinator and defensive coordinator. And those guys have to be very good at their jobs, and he has to let them fucking run with their jobs and do what they're supposed to do. But right now, when your offensive coordinator is some former assistant way down the line, assistant to the regional manager, it's not like you're bringing in a great coaching staff at that point. Like, you can get by to an extent with, a poor offensive coaching staff, as long as you have a very strong offensive minded head coach who really is playing both hats, the head coach and the offensive coordinator, or vice versa on the defense. But if you are just running with retreads and lower tier assistants who have been elevated into a position out of necessity as your offensive and defensive coordinator, and you have a head coach who doesn't have any coaching experience, sans the couple games that they had this year because they fell into the job, it's not going to bode well for your future unless you somehow hit the fucking lottery. And we saw that didn't happen last year. The tape is already out there. So unless Jeff Saturday is able to come in to this interview process and be like, oh yeah, I'm going to bring in, a Byron Leftwich as my offensive coordinator, and my defensive coordinator, I'm going to have XYZ.
I'm bringing in Brian Flores.
Yeah. Unless you got that, then why are we even talking about this still? Like, let's move on to someone who actually has some credibility, like a Brian Flores, who was in talks there for possibly being the head coach, but not anymore. Ejiro Evero is still in the talks there. Brian Flores is still out for the Arizona job. We'll see how that goes. But really, it feels like if Jeff Saturday gets his way, he is going to grab himself another helping a Saturday. And I can't imagine that going well for the team.
Yeah, me either.
I can't. As a Colts fan, I would be in dismay right now with how that's looking. It's really a bummer there.
Yeah, it's not good if you're a Colts fan. I've seen Pat McAfee talk a lot. Like they need to fucking hurry up and hire a coach. Like it needs to, that should have been done very, very early.
Yeah.
But they are where they are, and the vacancy that we kind of alluded to that is also having trouble being filled, that job down in Arizona. There are reports out that coaches are nervous about going down there and taking that job because they're tied to Kyler for at least 4 more years because of the new contract. That does not bode well for that organization and Kyler's potential long-term future. They're going to have to hire somebody, and somebody's going to have to believe in Kyler.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the setup doesn't feel really great for a coach to be able to go in there and feel like their long-term future with the team is pretty solid. We're looking at another situation where it could be a one and done or maybe 2 years and stuff like that, unless they're able to get the absolute most out of Kyler and really turn this team around. And as of right now, it just doesn't seem like that's where the team is set up to go. So it's going to be a tough vacancy for them to fill as well. And it kind of feels like they're just dragging this out because both teams know like they want to be competitive to an extent, but for XYZ reasons, they just can't find the guy because all the good stuff has already been taken care of.
Yeah. And so Brian Flores has been offered that job, I'm pretty sure. I don't know where they're at with that. That would be a great get for them. But the fact that I think that he's been offered the job and has not accepted is also very damning for the organization. They have got to figure it out. And the linchpin in the whole thing being that Kyler Murray is the quarterback. People are finally starting to get off of Kyler Murray. We've been there for a little bit, that Kyler is not that guy. He's talented in certain areas and not in others, and his level of preparation. So the fact that that is now becoming a storyline throughout the league, not just, talking heads on the internet or on TV, that's bad for him. That is something I don't think he was expecting. He had a bad year and then he got hurt. I don't know that there are that many people. I remember seeing Kyler Murray in the top 100 NFL players. We had this conversation with Spicy Mike. Oh, he should be higher. It's like, I wouldn't even fucking have him in the top 100. And now other people are starting to think the same thing.
Mm-hmm. And I'm sure that Flores probably has a little bit of fear about going into another team that is, really handcuffed to their tiny quarterback, and it doesn't necessarily fit with his wants and needs for a quarterback. Some guy who's now showing to have some injury issues here, maybe not the same sort of concussion issues that Tua was having, but we obviously know there was some contention there with, Brian Flores and Tua down in Miami and him not feeling great about him being the quarterback down there. But I mean, it's a different type of injury history. Obviously, the concussions for Tua down there are pretty damning. By the way, NFL reports 149 concussions during the season, which is actually up 18% from the previous. Good thing that we're doing all these player safety rules and kind of making the game soft so that way we can have even more concussions. And it might just be that they're actually just catching more of them, but it depends on which narrative you want to run with. The concussions are still a fucking issue in the league, and that ain't going away anytime soon.
Yeah, absolutely.
And who doesn't want Lisa Left Eye? Me. And apparently most of the NFL coaching candidates out there as well.
Yeah. So speaking of, rule changes to help improve the league is talking about getting rid of the hip drop tackle. We've seen the technique used a couple times in the playoffs. Broke Pollard's leg. It gave Pat Mahomes a high ankle sprain. And listen, nobody ever, for sure on this show, nobody's ever going to hope for injuries. But at the same time, they're playing a violent game. Okay. A hip drop tackle is not something that is intended to be an egregious thing to intentionally hurt somebody. That is a fucking technique to tackle.
In all your years of playing and coaching football, have you ever trained a hip drop tackle?
Have I ever trained a hip drop tackle? No, I've never trained one.
It is
It
something
just
that
happens in the
organically
game.
happens while you're tackling a person sometimes. It's
Yes.
not like if you want to tackle a person, you're trying to drive them. You know, you're trying to get that shoulder in, wrap up, and take them down, get their legs out from under them. But the hip drop tackle, it just organically happens. It's like trying to say offensive linemen shouldn't go out there and block. It's the fucking game. It's what happens. If you ban it, you're going to be banning guys for things that just are happenstance of the game.
Yeah.
Now
I don't know. I don't know if they
ban.
train. I don't know if they train it up at the higher levels. We definitely don't train it down
I
low.
can't imagine.
But I can't imagine that you would, because that is, you've been, a hip drop happens when you have been beaten. He's going to break the tackle, and you're doing everything that you can to try to drag him to the ground. You're not saying, going up and attacking, okay, I'm going to hit him with my arms, head on the wrong side, and then drop down to purposely hurt him. That's not a fucking thing.
The next step that we're going to be looking at is you can no longer hit the quarterback's arm while they're in a throwing motion. It's just going to happen.
Yeah.
It's
have
ridiculous.
a call coming in. I would imagine this is going to be a very interesting call.
Okay. I've sent the caller to voicemail.
Oh,
Goodbye.
no.
Oh, no.
Joe Rockstar, call back. I don't know what just happened. It kicked you out. But I would imagine Joe's got some comments on this hip drop tackle thing.
Either that or on his team, which he said if they lost, he wasn't going to be calling in.
I know.
I knew that was a fucking lie.
You know, I might just fucking call him back.
Yeah, that's when I saw that, it was ridiculous. I couldn't believe it.
Joe Sadstar.
Joe
To
Sadstar.
accept, press 1. To send a voicemail, press 2.
Joe Sadstar, you are on with the Lineman Lounge. What you got, brother?
What's up, guys? I know I said I wouldn't call till August, but I can't be a bitch about it.
Yeah, I figured you were licking the wound still from the tough game. It was hard to watch at the end. I felt so bad for you guys because that's a game you could have won if you had a quarterback.
It's hard to get out of bed. It's a Sunday and I'm still in bed. I almost missed your show.
Well, we're glad you're here.
No, you know what? I'm not that disappointed. I mean, I'm disappointed that we didn't win the Super Bowl, but I mean, what are you going to do with no quarterback?
Yeah, I mean, you guys were.
You know what I mean?
As soon as he went down, you were fucked.
What you're going to do with no quarterback is exactly what you did. You're still going to put up a semi-decent fight against the Eagles, who I really felt like should have been rolling and throttling once you guys, went down. Even with Fred Warner going down for a little bit early in the game, I was sitting there banging the table. I was like, you guys need to start attacking the middle of that field because he is the lifeblood of that defense in that backer core. And the Eagles didn't really go after him. And then as soon as you have the quarterback go down, I'm like, blitz the shit out of Josh Johnson. Like, get in his face and get him rattled, because he's not, like, he's a decent backup quarterback, but he is not ready for that stage in this game. And this is where you can take full advantage of it. And it didn't really seem like it happened. It just seemed like the Eagles stuck to their normal game plan. And you guys really held your own, especially on defense, for the majority of that game. I mean, it was an insurmountable thing to, have to put Purdy back out there without an arm, with his UCL torn.
UCL torn.
You just don't see it in modern NFL where you have a nearly 100% run game offense that is somehow able to stay competitive for a full 4 quarters. So you guys sticking it out as long as you did in that game, I think shows just how good your team really is.
Yeah, it was a freak show, man. I mean, I kind of felt right off the bat, second play, Warner goes down. Then you got Brock gets hit in the third play on the offense. He's out of the game. And then you got Bosa getting some kind of weird injury on the sideline. I was just like, this is not looking good early on. But you're right, man. And we managed to hold it 7-7 till almost halftime.
Yeah.
I mean, that was pretty cool. But I was obviously pissed off. I'm yelling in Scott's house. His dog's scared and hiding in the back room. Had to make the lonely drive home in the rain.
Yeah.
But, I mean, it is what it is. I think we'll be all right. Next year we'll see what happens. You know. But I wasn't going to be a bitch and go out like that. But since you guys are talking about injuries, yeah, that's a dumb rule to even suggest that you're going to another injury that or type of play that happens kind of bang bang where a defensive player is just trying to grab a guy and pull him down. How are you going to enforce this and legislate it? Is it going to turn out to be like roughing the passer where half the time it gets called if the guy falls on top of the quarterback and half the time it doesn't? And it's a dumb freaking thing. And the next thing you know, it'll be, hey, defensive lineman, you can't swing your arms at the quarterback because you might hit his arm and break his elbow. You know?
Exactly. That's what I was saying. And look, it's the hip drop tackle is akin to that of a horse collar, I suppose. Except for a horse collar is pretty damn clear. You can't grab him around the neck. You can't grab him on the nameplate and pull him down from behind. When you're doing a hip drop tackle, which honestly is a term that I had not even heard until this got brought up, it's just a unfortunate type of tackle that happens when you're taking down a guy. It's bang bang when that happens. The horse collar you can actually kind of avoid. You'll see players grip there and then recognize what's going on, and they'll grip elsewhere to take the player down. They're still going to be getting taken down from behind, but that helps prevent some injury. With a hip drop, you can't like reposition yourself because all of your momentum is going towards the ground to tackle the player. So it's just something that I don't know how you can reasonably expect players to avoid.
Yeah, it's not.
Yeah, I feel like you end up not pursuing the guy from behind because you could end up getting penalized for a hip drop if you grab him and try to pull him down. It's the dumbest thing I've ever heard of. The other one I heard that you guys didn't, maybe you were planning on talking about it, was a rule change about quarterbacks because of what happened in San Francisco, which they already gave you an extra player for another quarterback. And these guys choose to use it a different way, you know? So I don't know about that either.
Well, I actually have some comments on that, but that's a little bit of a longer diatribe as well of a holistic change. But yeah, I know what Joe's talking about, possibly having an emergency quarterback that doesn't actually count towards roster space to help prevent a situation like this, which I'm not completely against. But it would be interesting to say the least, because there's some cap implications that go along with it.
Yeah, that would be interesting how that would work. Would they count against the cap if they're not counting against the roster?
Yeah, it technically, and again, we can probably do this once Joe's off the line because it is a bit of a longer diatribe, but you know, you have those practice squad players, they can be called up like 3 times, the third time that they're called up from the practice squad without it actually counting as a transfer. It has to be a permanent move where the player's actual cap or salary does affect the cap space at that point and things like that. But there's some creative ways to work around that.
But yeah, well, I just don't think that. I think they need to stop doing these reactionary rule changes. They're trying to like change every little thing that. It seems like every time something happens, they're trying to over legislate it or come up with some kind of rule or whatever. The one glaring thing that they won't address, though, seems to be the rest.
Yeah, that is going to be a systemic problem. The way the NFL likes their problems.
Yeah. All right, guys. Well, like I said, I didn't want to go out without someone and saying goodbye for the summer.
All right, brother. Well, we appreciate you.
I'll still catch the show here and there, maybe call in during the off season.
There we go. We'll be talking a lot of golf here probably in the near future.
Oh, no.
All right, brother. Well,
I love to play, but it isn't the most exciting sport to watch.
Oh, well, you got to watch some live.
I did watch a little bit of the live. That seems kind of like a cool idea.
Make a flight out here and watch live golf in Tucson. They're going to be here in the next couple months.
Ooh, maybe that could happen.
All right, Joe. Well, hey, we appreciate you, man. Thanks for calling in. We'll talk to you soon, maybe.
All right, guys. Lineman Lounge.
Later, buddy.
Later, man.
So I actually do want to comment on that quarterback stuff. And I was thinking that this is probably something that we can maybe do a little bit of a deeper dive into the offseason. But quarterbacks, you've never had a single team in the NFL that has won a Super Bowl with a quarterback salary taking up over 13.5% of their cap space.
Mhm.
The closest iteration that you can see of that, and I think that we can almost throw this one out, is last year with the Rams. You didn't have Matt Stafford taking up 13.5% of that team's cap space. However, when you add in the Goff contract that they were still paying for, it was over 13.5%. So theoretically, going towards quarterbacks, you have more than 13.5% of your cap.
Right.
Either way, with the inflation of quarterback contracts and how insane and egregious those are getting, and we're only going to see it get even bigger here now. The salary cap got bumped up 16.6 million this
Hell
coming
yeah, dude.
season
I'm fucking
to
pumped about that, by the way.
224.8 million total cap this year. You're going to see some of these quarterback contracts for possibly a Jalen Hurts. That sounds like they're going to be looking at. Lamar Jackson's looking for another one. Joe Burrow. You've got all these guys that are going to be coming up on contracts that are just going to be absolutely enormous. And while that is one of the burdens on a team of having that good of a quarterback, I actually think it makes sense to the league to make some possible changes towards the cap in order to facilitate teams being able to build around these guys a little bit further. Not the same as when they're on a rookie contract, but something different. And one of those ideas out there is having your own pool of money
for quarterbacks.
For quarterbacks only. A quarterback
This is
cap,
something that we have talked about in the past.
Yeah.
And as the cap number goes up, it's only going to make more and more sense to me. And I know that you're on board with this thing. Like it's only the way it's going, especially if you're going to add in an emergency quarterback in case, so we don't run into a 49er situation.
Exactly.
Because you can't just add a guy, not count him against the roster spot, and then have no contract obligations against the cap. That doesn't make any fucking sense. I don't know how that would work. You would just have to add an extra roster spot, count him against the cap, and the only thing that you can do with that extra roster spot is keep an additional quarterback.
Yeah. So the thought process that I've kind of heard about is you do have this 13.5% cap number, which is that magic number of teams winning the Super Bowl or not. You basically would have it mandated, structured that quarterback contracts cannot exceed 13.5% of the cap space, which would basically make quarterback contracts kind of a flexible number. You know, year in and year out, they don't know what they're going to make, but it would almost be closer to like Supermax style contracts in the NBA. We've actually seen some of this stuff sort of done already. But in total, your entire quarterback room, no more than 13.5% of your cap space. And that changes year to year. Now, you would then have to look to the players and say, would players get behind this? And I think that they would, because you can still have it where you have quarterbacks out there who don't have fully guaranteed contracts. What makes it enviable to a quarterback to want to play under one of these for long term is you start to allow the team, or the teams are then forced to basically make these contracts fully guaranteed, or at least increase the amount of guaranteed money that comes with these contracts. So I think at that point it benefits the quarterback, because also then they know that the rest of their team isn't truly being hampered by how much money they're paying them. Obviously, if you have a guy in a rookie contract, the team overall is going to be a lot better, in a lot better shape. But once you actually get to that max contract, that 13.5% type of situation, the rest of the team isn't completely screwed over. You don't have an Aaron Rodgers whose team can't afford to pay anyone else on the squad because he needs to get his shekels. So I think it's an interesting concept. It's one that the league and the NFLPA would have probably a lot of arguing back and forth with. And I'm not a capologist to understand exactly how we can make it work. But for someone, especially like me, where we've got this weird Kirk Cousins situations going on in Minnesota, where he's now got 1 year left on his deal. And what do we do? Do we keep paying him going forward? Do we just extend him out another year or two? Or do we call it quits on this year? Because the guy constantly just gets fully guaranteed years added on to his deal. If we're able to kind of have that pot of money set aside, then I can just turn off what the team is doing with quarterback. I don't have to worry about that money anymore. I can just focus on what our true cap is and how we can affect the team from there. That's where I would like to go with it. And it does give you that flexibility if you want to have an emergency quarterback in the NFL.
Yeah, I agree, man. I think that's probably where they're headed towards. I don't know if they will ever get there, because I feel like the NFLPA is going to say, well, you're capping the earning potential of said player, like a Pat Mahomes or a whoever.
Yeah, but that's like I said, one of the things that the NFLPA is really pushing for is more fully guaranteed contracts or more guaranteed money for those players to kind of help the players insulate themselves from injury and not getting their earning potential. So for quarterback, I mean, when we're talking about the biggest money deals, the more guaranteed money you get into it, the more safe it is. So I think that is how you counter it, is you're able to have the teams, or the teams are pressured a little bit more into giving those fully guaranteed deals. That's where the question comes into play, is would owners really get behind this? Because those fully guaranteed contracts are coming out of the owners right away. That money is going into an escrow account essentially the day that they sign that contract if they're fully guaranteed. And not all the owners necessarily have 500 plus million sitting around to just do that.
Especially if you're a fucking Raiders fan, you know that.
Yep. But I believe that would cause league-wide changes, not just for the quarterback, but for how fully guaranteed money works, where they don't have to put that money into escrow, because we talked about this before. That rule was instituted because back in the day, you had teams that were cash poor and weren't able to do that. So you'd have some players on fully guaranteed deals, and then they're actually not getting their money when they're supposed to, and they have to kind of take it to the league and be like, hey, where's my fucking money? You told me I was getting this. I signed a contract with you. Just because you don't have the money isn't my fucking problem.
Yeah.
That was a little bit more of the old league. The new league is filled with a whole bunch of new rich whites. You know, we've got our Sam Waltons out there. So it's doable if they want to. And I think that would be a really interesting concept to see how that could affect the league. And yeah, you probably also have to find some other way to potentially compensate a quarterback differently other than just fully guaranteed, because they are the most premium position on the football field and they are going to be getting a hell of a lot of money. I haven't worked through the numbers to actually see what a 13.5% cap hit would look like for a quarterback. I don't even know.
What's the new cap?
224.8 million. But yeah, year in and year, I don't know what it would end up looking like. But I feel like for most quarterbacks, they aren't reaching that threshold, at least not as of right now.
So you're talking about $30 million against the cap is what they could go up to.
Which we see quarterback contracts going well above that right now. I'm pretty sure Kirk is something like 36 mil per year. So
Aaron Rodgers is at fucking 50.
Yeah.
So those guys are going to not like this idea at all.
Yeah, but again, like I said, there's ways to structure this differently where, let's say a quarterback is signed for a 3-year deal where they get an average annual value of, let's say, 50 million. They only get paid out that 30 million per year, and that extends their contract out an extra 2 or 3 years. Even if they're not with the team, they're still getting paid money from that team.
Fucking Bobby Bonilla and give them deferred money.
Exactly. If you're able to defer that money somehow, it is still guaranteed. They still get it. Even if they're not under contract with that team, their contract carries that money forward to them. That's one of the ways that I could see you doing it. But that money would still, in years future, even if that quarterback isn't with the team, still has to affect that 13.5 mil cap for quarterbacks. There's ways to do it.
There are ways. All right. Anything else before we talk about the festivities of what's been going on this week and today?
No, I think I'm ready to move on to that stuff, because I mean we're definitely filling out a week of show that doesn't have a whole lot going on. We got plenty that we can talk about, because I mean I can just talk about NFL all day.
Me too. One last thing: if you get rid of the hip drop tackle, you know what you're going to see again. You're going to start seeing alligator rolls, and I'd rather fucking deal with a hip drop than an alligator roll. If you don't know what that is, it's when you have a leg and you literally just go into an alligator's death roll and you are just contorting your body on the ground while you have his leg trying to rip him down to the ground. That is something that I was taught when I played football. That was a technique that was taught. Hip drops were not a thing because they just happen. I don't think we want gator rolls in the league.
I mean, if you want ankles, you don't want those.
Yeah. So, all right. Pro Bowl is today, and it's a dog shit game. The Pro Bowl is terrible. However, this week has been fucking decked out with a shitload of competitions, cool competitions. I caught dodgeball the other night. Myles Garrett has an absolute fucking cannon. And there's been some really, really cool shit. Derek Carr put on a fucking display that he can ball still and absolutely lit up the passing challenge. Are you a huge fan of the way the week has gone in terms of the games? Because I feel like this has got to be better than what we've had in the past. We used to have those like late 90s, early 2000s, the quarterback competitions. Who could throw it the farthest? I think this is way better with all the competitions throughout the week, making it an entire spectacle. They are still going to play a game of touch football, I believe, later on today, which nobody is going to fucking watch.
I believe flag football is what they're going to be doing. Look, if we're comparing this from the Pro Bowl game to now the Pro Bowl games that we're having this year, it's a better product. It's a better product overall. Am I in love with the whole thing? Still no. But I mean, it's a lot of fun to watch these guys, watch these players. It's the same way that, like, if you aren't into the NFL Combine, you're not going to watch the NFL Combine. If it's not an actual football game, you're probably not going to watch it. But if you're a diehard football fan like you or me or a lot of our viewers and listeners, yeah, it's something that you're going to tune into. It's something that maybe you're not going to watch live, but I've watched everything so far that's come out on the YouTube. NFL is putting all that out there, obviously condensed and stuff like that. But I mean, I got to watch all the dodgeball games and things like that. I got to watch the long drive competition, which is cool that they're, adding another sport there. It's cool to watch these things. And honestly, I think it gives an opportunity where you could expand the rosters for the Pro Bowl teams, where like you have your Pro Bowl starters and then have a very large alternate list where you're getting to see some maybe lesser known but still star players out there at these Pro Bowl games competing in all these different events. And I think they could even add more events to it because it seems like a lot of fun for the players. They're having a good time out there, rubbing shoulders with one another, and doing some fun stuff. The one thing that I haven't watched yet, and I don't know if they've aired it at all, is the touchdown celebration competitions. I'm really wanting to see that.
I have not seen anything on that yet.
Now, and I'm pretty sure it was from last year, but Stephon Diggs had a good one, which makes sense for the Bills, faithful. Is I believe he jumped off the back of a pickup truck through a table to catch his football, which was pretty fucking cool. But that's the stuff I want to watch. That Justin Jefferson is going to be out there doing some sort of crazy gritty or something like that.
Gritty, yeah.
But that's the one that I'm waiting to see. I honestly could care less about the flag football game because it is just flag football with professional athletes. But overall, a better product than it has been in years past. But it's still nothing like huge to write home about. Now, if this was being done up in Phoenix, I'd absolutely want to be spending the weekend up there to watch all the different events and stuff going on and try to get some autographs here and there and things like that. But it's in Vegas.
Yeah. So I like the competitions. It's fun. I prefer that over the game. Anybody who watched the game last year, they had pads on, but they were still playing touch football. Now they're doing flag football or whatever. Like, just give me the competitions. That's what I want to watch at this point. It's the worst all-star weekend in professional sports, but I believe it is getting better. Give me the NBA over the NFL because I love the dunk and the three-point contest. MLB All-Star Weekend is by far the best because the game is actually competitive, and then the home run derby is fucking one of the best spectacles in sports, in my opinion. Yep. But I mean, it's getting better, and I like the idea of being able to expand the rosters. And you brought up something interesting that's going to kind of lead us into our next topic. Maybe seeing some guys that are good, are stars, that maybe just were on the edge that we don't get to see on a big scale. But also sometimes we're going to see people that we don't necessarily want to see. So we're going to go to our surprises on our Pro Bowlers and some snubs. And the biggest surprise, and I don't think anybody is shocked by this, is the fact that Tyler Huntley is a fucking Pro Bowler. How did this happen? Did everybody else die? Why is he a Pro Bowler?
I have no idea. I mean, this is supposed to be like player voted and coach voted and stuff like that, right? And so Obviously, Tyler Huntley got added in because Josh Allen decided that he wanted to go play in the Pro-Am golf tournament out at Pebble
Don't blame
Beach.
him.
You know, more power to him. That looks like a fun time. But I mean, we talked about this just for the AFC roster alone. Yes, Mahomes not going to be there. Josh Allen not going to be there. Joe Burrow, I believe, not there.
Yeah, I don't think he's there.
Which leaves Trevor Lawrence, Derek Carr, both good quarterbacks in their own right.
Yep.
And then you got to be able to find a better third quarterback than Tyler Huntley out there.
There are two guys in the AFC North alone that I would have picked over Tyler Huntley. I'd have taken Pickett as the rookie, or I'd have taken Jacoby Brissett for what he did to help try to keep the Browns in a playoff chase until Deshaun Watson got back. They both played better than Tyler Huntley, and that's two out of the AFC North. I know I can name other guys.
Well, that's the thing is we're talking about, only 16 teams. There's, 6 players, including Huntley, that were selected and 3 of them didn't go. So if we're just narrowing that down to another, of the 16 teams, you still got 10 other quarterbacks out there. And I feel like there's probably some better options. So it does seem like a little bit of a joke. And when you do stuff like that, it doesn't give a whole lot of credibility to the Pro Bowl games in general.
Yeah, I saw it and I was like, somebody mistyped something. There's no way that Huntley is a fucking Pro Bowler.
Yeah.
But yeah,
apparently a lot of the other guys probably were out in Cancun or, South Beach or something like that, enjoying their off season already. And we're like, I ain't fucking leaving here to go play some fuck games.
Yeah.
And Tyler Huntley is like, wait, you guys want me? You love me? I'll be there. I'm making $225,000 a year. Of course I'll go on a free trip to Vegas.
Yeah. I mean, good for him. I'm excited for him, but it doesn't make any sense. There are so many. There are 2 guys in his own division that have taken over him. But
yeah,
I mean, hey, congratulations. You'll probably get some sort of bonus for being a Pro Bowler, even though you're not really a Pro Bowler. Yeah, they would have had to have said no. They would have had to have said no.
Yeah.
But let's get to some snubs. Who is your biggest Pro Bowl snub? Guys that should have been there that were not selected?
Man, it's a tough one. I guess the one that hits home for me is my starting left tackle. I would have loved to have seen him out there. I think that he's, top 2, top 3 at least in the NFC at left tackle out there. And so for the NFC squad, I feel like he could have made it.
I thought for sure was okay. That is who you're talking about, right?
Yes.
Yeah, he should have been a Pro Bowler. Like he was fantastic this year.
That's the one that hit home, I believe, to me, as a guy that I would have loved to have seen out there. But there's tons of snubs otherwise throughout the rest of the league.
The snub that hit home for me has been corrected. Wyatt Teller should have been a Pro Bowler from the very fucking beginning. He does make it there as an alternate now. Should have been there the whole time. He's fucking amazing. He's one of the best guards in the NFL. I don't know why he wasn't selected originally, but he is there now. But looking around, and I'm sure Joe Rockstar would have one specific name that he thinks should be there. Christian McCaffrey did not make this list, right?
Correct.
Like that, that's an egregious miss, in my opinion.
Yeah, NFC guys, you got Saquon Barkley out there at running back. Tony Pollard, unfortunately, had the injury and wasn't able to make it. Miles Sanders playing in the Super Bowl. So, actually, you do have Christian McCaffrey, who did make it out there. He was just a replacement for Miles Sanders.
Alternate.
And Dalvin Cook made it out there. But I personally, McCaffrey, to me, I'm taking him probably over Dalvin Cook. I'm probably taking him over Miles Sanders. And probably taking him over Tony Pollard as well, if we were talking about straight up voting.
Well, I mean, Tony Pollard's a better running back than Christian McCaffrey.
Yeah, okay. Skip.
Yeah, hold on. Let me go get a pair of Jordans and fucking stick my foot in my mouth.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so that one was, to me, I'm glad he's there now. He should have never had to be an alternate, though.
Yeah.
So the Pro Bowl is still not a perfect science. It's not even close. The fact that it's not just fan votes is a good thing, but at the same time, there are some still misses for sure.
This is one of their opportunities where I feel like they could probably have 32 kickers out there, a kicker from every team, and have just awesome kicking competitions. That's your home run derby, is like the kicking competitions to see, just like how we've talked about with the overtime rules. My idea for a kickoff, do a kickoff in the Pro Bowl games, and we'll see who's got the best leg, the longest leg, things like that. I mean, that sounds like some good gambling to me, honestly. Like,
I would
money
place
on
bets
Justin
on that.
Tucker.
100%. All of the money on Justin Tucker.
Absolutely.
But the odds on Justin Tucker would have to be probably minus 10,000.
Right. Right. And no one's taking Brett Maher because
no.
Then again, I mean, it's just extra points and stuff that he's bad at. When you put him at distance, he seems to be all right.
Yeah, no, that poor guy had a rough playoff run. Man. So any other names that you wanted to bring up on snubs and or surprises?
No, I mean, if I was sitting with a list of all the top NFL players at each of their positions, I guarantee I could find one or two for every single position. It's just, to me, the Pro Bowl made sense why you needed to have a limited roster before, when you were shipping all these guys down to Hawaii to play in a game, because you can't have 90 guys on each sideline. But now that we're doing this more, lighthearted and event oriented type of thing in Vegas, I say we double up every position, get more guys out there, make it more fun for the fans. They're only charging $35 a head for tickets to go out to this thing. So if you keep it at that amount, along with the concession prices and stuff like that, the more players you have out there, the more of a spectacle like that you make, the more opportunity for people to go out there and get in close proximity to their favorite players in the NFL at a vacation destination like Vegas, the bigger event that it's going to be. I think it would be a good thing for the NFL, and it'd be a fun thing for, kids, family, everyone to be able to make it out there and see all that.
Okay. So this looks like a new storyline just came across. The Broncos and Sean Payton have cut ties with their DC Evero.
Yeah. So they did. I saw that yesterday. The Vikings had requested the option to interview him, and it had been turned down. And then, as of yesterday, they did grant him authorization to seek other employment, and it was expected that they were going to be releasing him. So now it's down
that release has happened, and now he can go and do whatever he's got to do.
Now it'll be down to Flores and Evero for the Vikings. And my gut is feeling me. While I am kind of leaning towards wanting Flores more, my gut's telling me that it will be Evero, because Flores is interviewing for the DC job out there in Denver, and because he's still on the table as a head coach option in Arizona. So he's got a couple other pretty solid places to go. I mean, if I'm a defensive coordinator, I would rather start with a good foundation and a strong defense there in Denver to make myself look good, because Flores is getting a head coach job within a year, right?
Yeah, he's only as a DC for 1 year to continue to build up his goodwill with the league, even though I don't feel like he should have to. That is a very real thing, considering that the lawsuit is still ongoing against the NFL. He does that for 1 year, and now he's back. He's being a head coach somewhere. Will be the first guy hired next year if he does not take the head coaching job in Arizona, would be my expectation.
One of the first, but yeah, he's definitely deserving of a job.
Yeah. You got anything else, man? I think we could wrap this bad boy up.
No, I'm definitely good to go.
All right. So, guys, we appreciate you. Next week, we are going to be doing our Super Bowl show. It is not going to be a pregame show. We are not going to congest your Sundays. We are going to be back on a Saturday, our typical time, typically around 1. So there will not be too many changes to the schedule. I think both of us have confirmed that we are good on that. So back next week, we'll give you a preview of the Super Bowl. We'll go over our playoff picks, and we'll give you our picks for the Super Bowl, including any storylines that come out leading up to the Super Bowl, because there's always a ton of shit that comes out. If you guys enjoy the show, tell your friends. Get them to go to the YouTube, subscribe, interact with the show. Go on Twitter, Facebook. Listen to us. If it's too much to see these beautiful faces for 1 to 2 hours, and you just want to hear our beautiful voices, go check out any podcast platform. We can be found there. But we are going to get the hell out of here. I got to get a shower, get ready to head into Cleveland. We'll be back next week. We love you. We appreciate you. See you.
Welcome to the Lineman Lounge, hosted by Mike and Evo, calling their shots and being outlandish.
Breaking news from the Lineman Lounge. My fantasy football team just took a huge fucking hit. And that also makes it even more likely that the Raiders are going to beat the Ravens on Monday night. Le'Veon Bell is about to be your starter. Latavius Murray is going to go there as well. Jesus, fuck my ass.
Get ready for the thickest podcast in the game. Coming to you from Hangar 6, where sleeves are